Good afternoon. Welcome on into this edition of From Day One. This afternoon, I figured we'd go just a little bit differently. So, we are actually going to handle with dumb criminals of the week instead of our normal subset fare. We start with a Georgia man who tries to rob a business but gets ignored. Tell us about it, please.
Authorities in Atlanta, Georgia say that an armed robber walked away pretty much empty-handed this week after he attempted to hold up a local business but was snubbed by his would-be victims. According to reports, the incident took place on the afternoon of July 3rd at the Nail First Nail Salon on Piedmont Road. Surveillance footage captured of the bizarre incident shows as the unidentified suspect walks in just after 2:35 p.m., holding what appears to be a handgun concealed in a bag strapped around his shoulder. He proceeds to point the weapon in the direction of several people before starting to yell at everyone inside to give him all of their money. This is the point at which you would normally expect the terrified victims to show some kind of a reaction to what was going on, to comply with the suspect's demands, maybe try and reason with him, or even attempt to run for their lives. However, that's not what happened in this case.
Okay.
No. Instead, pretty much everyone just ignored the suspect. And here's the thing. It actually seems to have worked. In the footage, the suspect can be seen repeating his demands for cash several times, as everyone just sort of sits there and looks at him. The business's owner even picks up a phone call during the incident, casually walking away while refusing to acknowledge the robber. While the suspect did snatch a woman's phone when she got up and tried to walk out the door, she doesn't appear all that bothered. Instead, she stands outside for a few moments before coming back inside. By that time, the suspect had apparently realized that his plan was a failure, and he walks out of the nail salon having taken $0 in cash. In interviews after the strange crime, witnesses admitted that they were frightened, though did their best to follow the lead of the salon's owner, who tried to appear relaxed. Police did, however, caution the public afterwards, saying in general it's best to comply with demands in these situations, since you never know what a given suspect is capable of. At the time of this recording, authorities say that they are still seeking to identify the culprit behind this week's incident. Anyone with information is encouraged to reach out to the Atlanta police or Crime Stoppers.
All right, next one. Sheriff's police are charged about an accidental shooting.
Representatives from Florida's Hernando County Sheriff's Office say that one of their own employees is facing multiple charges this week following a recent incident in which they accidentally shot themselves, then tried to cover up the situation by fabricating a story about an attempted carjacking. The case began sometime on June 30th when 21-year-old Dakota Wood, who at the time worked for the sheriff's office as a telecommunicator, reported that he had been shot during an incident in the community of Spring Hill. Wood said that he had been sitting in his vehicle in Linda Peterson Park when two black men had approached him, pulled out a gun, and threatened him. He claimed that the man had tried to steal his car, and when he resisted, he was shot in the thigh. He said the suspects collected the shell casing and fled the scene, during which time he was able to grab his own weapon and fire several rounds in self-defense. Wood also claimed he was pretty sure he hit one of the men several times. However, while being treated in the hospital for his gunshot wound, Wood's story allegedly fell apart. He later admitted that he made the whole thing up, saying instead that he was upset because of problems he was having with his girlfriend and that he had simply been playing with his gun in the vehicle when it accidentally went off. In a statement after news about the case broke, Sheriff's Office representatives said that these kind of situations were, quote, relatively rare, unfortunate, and unpleasant, and promised that Wood was going to be held accountable. The 21-year-old has since resigned from his position and is now facing charges of tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, false reports of commission of crimes, and discharging a firearm in public or residential property.
All right. Next case. Florida drunk driver arrested after crashing into a police car. Okay.
A suspected DUI driver reportedly found himself on the receiving end of some pretty terrifying instant karma this week after he allegedly caused an accident with a local sheriff's deputy. According to reports, the whole thing went down on July 12th when a deputy with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office was driving north on a section of road in the city of Dunedin. It was just after 9 p.m., and he was approaching Cedar Street when out of nowhere a man in a Honda Accord drove out into the middle of the road in front of him. It happened fast enough that the deputy could not stop in time, sending him crashing into the Honda's driver's side door. While thankfully neither the deputy nor the driver were seriously injured, it apparently didn't take long to figure out the main cause of the accident.
Yeah.
The driver, later identified as 70-year-old Edward Parsons, was allegedly quite drunk. He also had no driver's license or registration for the Honda he was driving. After being treated for non-life-threatening injuries, he was arrested and charged with DUI involving property damage, failure to obtain a Florida driver's license, and failure to register a vehicle in Florida.
All right, next one. Missouri man accused of swatting.
Authorities in Clay County, Missouri say that a 19-year-old man is facing serious charges this week after he allegedly swatted a car manufacturing plant, forcing a massive evacuation. According to reports, the incident began at around 5:20 p.m. on July 18th, when police received an alarming report from Ford's Kansas City assembly plant, located in the village of Claycomo. The facility had received a threatening phone call from a man who said that he had barricaded himself in a bathroom on the building's second floor and was armed with an AK-47 as well as an unknown quantity of C4 explosives. Understandably, the plant was forced to shut down immediately, and its roughly 2,200 employees were evacuated. A large police response was quickly organized, with dozens of officers soon arriving at the scene. They searched the facility for 6 hours before it was conclusively determined that the threatening call had been a hoax. Following an investigation, police arrested 19-year-old Zachariah A. Peterson in connection with the incident.
Okay.
Authorities now allege that the teenager swatted the manufacturing plant to try and get his friend the day off of work. For those unfamiliar with the term, swatting is the process of making a prank call to emergency services with the intention of drawing the largest armed police response possible to a given address. As we've mentioned in reports about similar incidents, the so-called prank is incredibly dangerous and has led to deaths in the past. At the time of this recording, police say they have no reason to believe that Peterson's friend was in on his plan, though the 19-year-old reportedly claimed he was forced to make the call. Peterson has been charged with making a terroristic threat, and if convicted, could be facing up to 7 years in prison and a fine of $10,000.
Alrighty, next one. 11-year-old Florida girl arrested for kidnapping hoax inspired simply by a YouTube challenge.
Authorities in Volusia County, Florida were left both relieved and seriously irritated this week after what they initially thought was a terrifying armed kidnapping situation instead turned out to be an 11-year-old girl's idea of a funny joke. According to reports, it all started at around 9:45 a.m. on July 26th, when dispatchers with the Volusia County Sheriff's Office began receiving disturbing texts that had been sent to 911. They were from an 11-year-old girl who said that her 14-year-old friend had been abducted by an unknown armed man in a white van who had proceeded to drive south on Interstate 95 in Oak Hill. Given the seemingly critical nature of the crime, a large police response was mobilized immediately, with officers from multiple different law enforcement agencies sent to help. Air support was even called in an effort to locate the suspect's vehicle faster. Over the next hour or so, dispatchers continued to receive updates from the 11-year-old by text, who provided descriptions of the alleged suspect and said that she was following in a blue Jeep. However, police were unable to find the suspect or the white van in question. They would soon learn that this was because they didn't exist. After tracing the phone that was sending the text messages, officers were able to pinpoint it to an address in the neighboring city of Port Orange. When they paid a visit to the residence, they were greeted by a confused man who turned out to be the father of the 11-year-old girl. He said that she was inside with the rest of the family. Sure enough, when officers went inside, they found the 11-year-old sitting in the living room holding her phone. Moments later, she received a call from 911 dispatchers. When questioned, the girl apparently admitted that she had made the whole thing up, saying that it was a prank inspired by a YouTube challenge she had seen. She said that she, quote, thought it would be funny. Things presumably got less hilarious, though, when she was arrested and charged with making a false police report concerning the use of a firearm in a violent manner and misuse of 911. While police appeared to show some sympathy for the girl given her age, they were quick to note the seriousness with which they treat these kinds of matters, with a representative saying, quote, this kind of prank activity is dangerous. We're going to investigate every incident, but today it wasted valuable resources that might have helped someone else who legitimately needed our help.
Correct.
They also reminded parents to make sure they are closely monitoring their children's social media accounts.
Alrighty, next one. Ohio bank robbers arrested after falling from ceiling into the bank's recycling bin.
Authorities in Erie County, Ohio say that a bumbling would-be burglar was left pretty embarrassed this week after his plan to rob a bank went sideways, leaving him not only empty-handed, but also comically trapped in front of police. According to reports, it all started at around 2 a.m. on July 26th, when officers from the Huron Police Department received a notification that an alarm had been triggered at the local Vacation Land Federal Credit Union. When they arrived, strange noises immediately caught their attention, which they realized were coming from an access door above the bank's drive-thru. Officers watched for a few seconds as the door opened, revealing a masked man who had obviously broken in. Without checking to see if anyone was there, the man dropped a bag he was carrying to the ground before starting to lower himself from the access door. It was at this point that police announced themselves. Evidently startled that he had been caught, the man fell from the access door right into a large wheeled recycling bin below the door. Realizing that he was now trapped and seemingly resigned to his fate, he could be heard on body camera footage saying, "Ah, f**k," before surrendering without any kind of struggle. Things got even more embarrassing for the suspect when, while being placed under arrest, the bin he was in gave out for a second time, causing him to fall towards the ground. After being taken into custody, the man was identified as 27-year-old Tristan Heidi. Heidi reportedly continued to cooperate with police, admitting that he had been trying to rob the bank and saying that he had done it because he was broke. Heidi also reportedly revealed that his robbery plans had been a bust even before police had arrived. At the time he was caught, he had actually been leaving the building empty-handed after failing to secure any cash. Funnily enough, the only thing that he had successfully stolen was the recycling bin that he had fallen into, which he had initially used to climb up to the access door. Heidi is now facing charges of breaking and entering, possession of criminal tools, and safecracking.
Alright, one more we'll do here, and that will be Christian woman arrested for allegedly assaulting child at a water park.
Authorities in Sandusky, Ohio say that a self-described Christian woman definitely wasn't doing God's work this week when she allegedly harassed and assaulted a young boy at a local water park. The incident began sometime around noon on July 27th, when police were called to the Cedar Point Shores water park with reports of a confrontation at one of the kids' pools. When they arrived, they were approached by a woman named Jennifer Hutton, who said that her son had been verbally abused and assaulted by a woman. Jennifer explained that while in the pool, the woman had called her son a brat and a fat ass and had pushed him off of an inflatable toy. When officers approached the woman allegedly responsible for the incident, who identified herself as Jennifer Lee Miller, she denied most of the altercation. She admitted that she had called the child a brat, but said she never swore at him or touched him, adding that she was, quote, a Christian woman, a grandmother, and she wouldn't do such a thing. While some witnesses contradicted Miller's statements, saying that they had seen her at least swearing at the child, police decided to let the incident go. However, they warned Miller that if she wasn't being honest with them, or if there was another incident, she would be charged with disorderly conduct. Miller apparently agreed. However, after leaving the water park, police learned that Miller had provided them with a fake name, address, and phone number. They went back and managed to find her again, at which point she claimed she didn't have an ID on her, and evidently, without a hint of irony, said she felt like she was being harassed. Police eventually managed to identify the woman as
As a
Janet
moron.
Nail, a 67-year-old Michigan resident. She was subsequently arrested and charged with obstruction.
And with that, we will leave that. We'll come back if you want like more of that. We'll have it in the evening. But for now, the afternoon will come to a close here on From Day One. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. As we're so close to that 50,000 point where we can get those